A deep mold like this can use up a lot of clay. So I'm going to use a conforming die so that I can make just a thin shell out of this. I'll need to fit the die and the mold back together exactly the same way. So I'm going to cut these little triangles that are called keys into two sides of the mold. I cut the keys into the flat area and make sure that I'm far enough away from any part of the mold that I might want to use. Then I have softened polymer clay and I formed it into a little cone shape, and I press that into the mold. Make sure that I've got my keys covered. Here's one here and the other one here. So I want to make sure that the clay covers that so I can register these pieces and get them to mate together properly. And then form a little handle on the back side of it so I have something to hold on to. And now when I pull these apart, I have two pieces that will mate perfectly. So on these high places, I'm actually going to press these down some because when the two parts mate together with some clay in between, the high spots would end up being too thin. So I'm going to use my finger to press these down. And then also on the edges, I want to sort of give myself a little relief from the edges, so I'm going to just push the edges all in a little bit. And what this one looks like doesn't really matter because it actually is just going to impress the back side. And once I'm done fiddling with it, then I can bake it in the oven at 275 for 15 minutes. To use the die with the mold, I start with a patty that's a little thicker than I want my final piece to be, and then just spread it out and make sure that it covers all of the image. Then I take my conforming die and I mate that up, and this is where the keys come in so I can find which way this goes. Then I need to use a good bit of pressure to squeeze these two parts together, and then I can remove the die. And when I demold it, you can see that I've used a lot less clay to make this part, and I've got a beautiful impression on it. So now this is ready to trim out and use in any of my creations.